Howdy! Today's video will focus on the conic section ellipses. So, an ellipse is the set of all points in a plane such that the sum of the distances from the foci is constant. It is created by the intersection of a plane and a double-knapped cone, with the plane intersecting both sides of one cone at any angle other than perpendicular to the cone's axis. So if you see here, it's intersecting both sides of the cone at an angle other than perpendicular to the axis. Now, to explain the definition a little better, as you see here, we have two lengths, D1 and D2. So from the focus to this point here, we created two lengths. Now those two lengths will always be constant. Okay, no matter where the point is. So if the point was, let's say, here, and we had two lines going to that point, then let's say that was G1 and G2, then that would mean D1 plus D2 equals G1 plus G2. So no matter where this point is on the parabola, the two lengths going from the focus to that point is going to be the same. The characteristics of our ellipse is there are going to be two square terms. Both terms are going to be positive, but both of these terms will have different coefficients, so different numbers in front of x squared and y squared. The standard equation at the origin, or otherwise known as the general equation. That's going to be x squared over a squared plus y squared over b squared equals 1, and y squared over a squared plus x squared over b squared equals 1. Now notice we have two different equations. That's because a is always larger than b. We're going to have two numbers, a squared and b squared. Now the larger of the two is always going to be a. So that's why we have it in two different forms. One where a is under x and one where a is under y. Okay, so remember, this is very important. A is always larger than b. Now the standard equation at the this is the standard equation. We have x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Notice our equation is always going to equal 1. Now, if a is under our x, that means it's going to travel along the x-axis. If a is under our x, it travels along the x-axis. And since b is under y, it's going to travel along the y-axis. Okay? Now, from your notes, you're always going to be able to know all this information if you have your notes on you. So remember your focus, which is right here, your focus, or your foci points, your two focus points, will be created by taking h plus and minus c comma k when you have a under x. So when a is under your x, the larger number is under x, then you're going to have h plus and minus c comma k for your foci points. Okay, now you get c, the c right here, from this equation right here. A squared minus b squared equals c squared. Or just better put, c equals the square root of a squared minus b squared. Keep in mind, this looks a lot like the Pythagorean theorem, but it's a subtraction instead of an addition. Okay. Now, when it comes to when we have a under our y, that means a travels along the y-axis. When b is under x, that means b travels along the x-axis. And as well as when you have a under your y, so when you have the larger number under your y, that means your foci will be h comma k plus and minus c. Now, what is h and k? H and k is your center of the ellipse. H and k is always going to be the center of your ellipse. Your major axis will always be the length of 2a, and your minor axis will always be the length of 2b. Okay? Now, we need to be able to identify these features from our equation when we're graphing. We need to know what the center is, which is hk. We need to know how to find a, b, and c. A is always larger than b, and c equals the square root of a squared minus b squared. The major axis will always be 2 times a, which is the longer length. The minor axis will be 2 times b, which is the smaller length. Your foci, when you have a under x, is just going to be h plus and minus c comma k. And when a is under y, you'll have h comma k plus and minus c. Then your axis of symmetries. This is nice to know. There are only two lines of symmetry with ellipses. Okay, our first example. We have x squared over 4 plus y squared over 9 equals 1. When we're graphing, we need to be able to find the center, A and B, and our foci. Okay, and with our foci, we also need to find C. Okay, so we need to find A, B, C, our center, and our foci. So our center is HK, so the numbers that are added and subtracted from x and y. But since there is nothing added or subtracted to x and y, that means our center is just going to be 0, 0. A is always a larger number, so is 4 or 9 larger? Obviously 9. Now keep in mind, that is going to be a squared. So, since we have 9 as a squared, the square root of 9 to find a is just 3. So the square root of 9 equals 3. Now b would be the smaller length, so the square root of 4 equals 2. So this is a, this is b. Now your foci, since we have our larger number under our y, that means our foci would just be h comma k plus and minus c. So let's go ahead and find our c. Our c is going to equal the square root of a squared minus b squared, which is just going to be the square root of 9 minus 4, which is the square root of 5, which equals 2.24. So now we can find our foci. So our foci would just be h, which is 0, plus, h comma k plus c. K is 0, and c is 2.24, so we'll have 2.24. The other focus will be 0 comma 0 minus 2.24 because of k minus c, so we'll have a negative 2.24. So these are our two foci points, and this is our center, and our two lengths of A and B. So let's go ahead and plot all this information. So our center is 0, 0, so start there. And now let's go ahead and plot our major and minor axis. Now since A, again, is under y, that means A is going to go up and down. It's going to go along the y-axis. So A is going to go 1, 2, 3 up because it's under y. It's going to go along the y-axis. And then our B, since it's under x, we're going to go left and right along the x-axis 2. Because B is length of 2. Now we can go ahead and connect our dots and make an ellipse. And our focus is just 0, 2.24, and 0, negative 2.24. So there's our foci, there's our center, and our four corners for our ellipse. Next example, we need to find our center, A, B, and C, and our foci. Okay. Now, what does our equation of our ellipse always need to equal? It always needs to equal 1. So in order to get this to equal 1, we're going to divide everything by 16. So our new equation is going to be x squared divided by 16 plus y squared divided by 4, because 4 over 16 reduces to 1/4, and then equals 1, because 16 divided by 16 is 1. So now we can find our center. Center is hk. There is no h and k added to x or y, so therefore our center will be 0, 0. Now a is the larger number. The larger number is 16, and that 16 is a squared. So the square root of 16 to find a is going to be 4. So the square root of 16 is 4. The other number is b squared, so the square root of 4 is 2. Lastly, we need to find c. So c is the square root of a squared minus b squared, so 16 minus 4 equals the square root of 12. And that's going to be 3.46. So we found A, B, and C. Now we can find our focus points. So our foci, since we have A under our x, from your notes, you would know that we're going to have H plus and minus C comma K for our foci. So that means we're going to have, our center is at 0, 0, so H and K is 0, 0. So we're going to have 0 plus 3.46, which is just 3.46, comma K, which is 0, as well as 0 minus 3.46, so negative 3.46, comma 0. So there's our focus points. So now let's go ahead and graph everything. Our center is 0, 0. A is under x. A is under our x. So that means we're going to go left and right by 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Go along the x-axis when A is under x. And then since B is under our y, we're going to go up and down by 2. 1, 2. We have our 4 corners. Go ahead and make your ellipse, or the best you can. And then C, our focus points, they're going to be 3.460. So 1, 2, 3.46. 1, 2, 3.46. So there's your 2 focus points, and there you have your ellipse. Alright, moving on. Working backwards now. Write an equation of the ellipse that has a vertex at 0, 4, a covertex at negative 3, 0, and a center at 0, 0. So, keep in mind, when you're making an equation of an ellipse, you need 4 variables. You need H and K, A, and B. That's all you need to make an equation of an ellipse. And that's all given. We have these 4 points here. So our center is HK. So our center is going to be 0, 0. A is going to be a longer length. We're given a length of 4 and a length of negative 3. But since a length is always going to be positive, so instead of saying negative 3, let's just say positive 3. So out of those two, 4 is larger. So that means A will equal 4. B will equal 3. So the last step we need to know is whether or not A is under our x or A is under our y. So if we look at where A is 4, so 4 is in this coordinate pair. And this coordinate right there is the y coordinate. So that means A is going to be under our y in our equation. Pretty simple. Just look to see where A is in your coordinate pair, and that dictates whether or not A is under x or A is under y. So since we decided A is under our y, our standard form of an equation where y is squared, well, where A is under y, we're going to have y minus k squared divided by a squared plus x minus h squared divided by b squared equals 1. So now we're going to go ahead and plug everything that we found. K is equal to 0, so we're going to just have y minus 0, which is just y. So we're going to have y squared divided by a squared. A is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. Plus x minus h. H is 0, so we're going to just have x squared divided by b squared, which is 3. So 3 times 3 is 9 equals 1. So there's your equation. Last example. Write an equation of the ellipse that has a vertex at 5, 1, a covertex at negative 3, 5, and a center at negative 3, 1. This one's a bit more difficult. That's why we have a graph. Let's go ahead and graph this. So our center at negative 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, a covertex at negative 3, 5, and a vertex at 5, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Okay, so we have our center, and we have 2 lengths, here and here. This length is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, hell. The vertex is at 5, 1. So starting from your center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's your length. So then this length is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So out of those 2 lengths, A is always larger. So your A is going to equal 8. B is going to equal 4. And your center is given at negative 3, 1. So H and K equals negative 3, 1. Now, since A is traveling along the x-axis, that means x comes first. So we're just going to have our x minus h. H is negative 3, so minus a negative is positive. So we'll have x plus 3 squared divided by a squared, which is 8, so 8 times 8 is 64, plus y minus k is 1, so we'll have y minus 1 squared divided by b squared, which is 16, equals 1, because our equation always equals 1. Okay, and there you have it. That is it for this video. Thank y'all for watching. The next video will cover parabolas.